Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, ArcGIS Dashboards and how we can visually display and present our data on a single screen. If we haven't met, or if you haven't been a part of our webinars before, my name's Jacob Lovejoy. I'm a registered teacher in Queensland, and I'm currently the Education Program Manager for Esri Australia. Here are a couple of ways that you can connect with me. If you needed some further support, feel free to email through to education@esriaustralia.com.au. This is the email that I monitor. And then if you would like to connect with me via social platforms, you can also do that too. And here we have the school's website, which has a great host of learning materials and professional development resources designed for teachers and students. So feel free to access them too. Alrighty, to get started, I am hoping that the few of us that there are can all grab their phones up and scan the QR code or enter the URL down the bottom of this slide into a browser and complete a quick survey that I built. And we're going to essentially display the data from this survey up in a dashboard and build it from the ground up. So I thought it'd be a really good way to replicate something that might be done in your schools. So if I head over to the survey itself, actually I might just go back once more. I'll give everyone 20 or so seconds to get their phone out and scan that QR code. And hopefully you've got it up by now on your phone or on your computer. But I'm essentially going to go through this this survey too and add my data to it. So it's time to participate in a quick survey. Let's go to the beach. Let's go get away. Thank you, Nicki Minaj, for that song. This data is essentially going to be used to build a dashboard today. Don't worry, there's no personal data being collected, but I guess with this in mind, please consider the nature of the data you do enter. If you're a little bit concerned about putting in data like what is your go-to beach to visit in Australia, then feel free to select another beach that you don't visit. That's fine. But do you like the beach? Yes or no? What is your go-to beach to visit in Australia? I'm going to go with Palm Beach down on the Gold Coast. So I'm just using the search bar. And you can put it on the beach if you want, but I'm not too fussed as long as it's roughly in the right spot around Australia. On average, how many visits to the beach do you make in a year? Let's go maybe 7. Why is this beach your go-to beach? And I know that there might be other reasons that you might attend the beach. I didn't think to build out an extensive list. So if you can just choose one that makes some kind of sense today, that would be great. So I go to this beach because it's a safe and patrolled beach. How would you rate the general cleanliness of this beach? So consider things like litter, animal feces, items left behind, natural debris, etc. I'm going to go with clean. And what actions could the council take to improve your experience at the beach? Let's go with some better maintenance of the rock groins. Now, if there isn't anything that the council can do, you can just say nil or something like that, or to that effect. And then once you've done answering those questions, if you can hit submit, that would be great. As you can see, the data isn't personal. It's really just the survey's acting as a tool for us to be able to build this dashboard today and model this process in action. So once that survey has been complete, if you were doing that with your students, you know, something like this might be a really good qualitative survey that you get your students filling out for something like environmental change and management, and they're getting going and surveying some beach goers at a local beach or whatever it happens to be. But we're done with the survey now. We've got our data. So what I need to do from this point on is to go to ArcGIS Online. And there's 2 ways to, I guess, begin building a dashboard. The first way is to click on the 9-digit icon in the top corner, and you can click on Dashboards, and it will take you, once it loads, essentially to ArcGIS Dashboards, where you can get started. and you just hit create dashboard and roll with it. I personally do not like this way. I like to start with some data collected in something like a survey or with an existing map and build my dashboard around it. So I'm just going to return to home. And from here, I'm going to go to content. And we're just waiting for that to load up. But once the content is here, I just need to go down my folders in the left-hand side until I find the survey and what that was called. ArcGIS Dashboards survey, there we are. And I want to select this first one. Feature layer hosted is the way that I remember it. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to open this in a map, and I'm going to really briefly display a couple of the questions in a map and save that map, and from there we'll get started with the dashboard. So I'm going to head over to Australia, and we can see that there's some survey results. As I mentioned, there's only a few of us today, but first thing I want to do is I'm just going to copy this a couple of times. And the reason I do that is so that I can choose what question is being shown. So the first one that I'll want to show is, do you like the beach? And I'm going to go to change style and change that to the question that reflects that new feature layer name. And I always like to make my symbols a little bit bigger. I just find 8 is a little bit too small. So I'm going to hit OK there. I'm going to rename the second one to why is this your go-to beach? And again, we're following the same principle. Just need to choose the question that reflects that name. There we go. And again, we can make these a little bit bigger. And you'll see why. When you go into a bit more of a local area, if you were looking at a much more local scale, it's usually nice to have these symbols a little bit larger. They just help you differentiate from the base map as well. And you can change those colors if you weren't happy with those colors. For the sake of time, I'm just going to leave the colors as are today. And then the last one, I'm just going to rename this to how would you rate the cleanliness of the beach? And for this one, it might make more sense, as we were working with the Likert scale, to do a bit of a proper color code here. So I'm going to click on options. And I always like to make sure that I reorder my legend so it appears as the Likert scale did. So there we go. We can see from very unclean through to very clean. And it makes sense for a question like this to actually symbolize appropriately. So I'm going to go with a red for very unclean, and we'll work up from there. Orange, neutral, maybe a bit of a yellow. And then we go in the other direction for clean. So I might go with a nice blue and make this a bit darker as well. And you can see that I've got a nice legend or progression of colors there to reflect that. We can see that most of that data is clean anyway. So if we I'm going to turn these two layers off. I'm going to show that by default, do you like the beach? That's the layer that's going to be displayed on my map in the dashboard. And I want to make sure that my map extent, I'm happy with my map extent in this view. And when I am, I hit save and save as. So we'll call this one webinar dashboards map. Esri Australia. I'm not too fussed about my tags, and I'm going to save it in the folder where my survey data is stored in ArcGIS Online. and I'm going to save map. And once I've saved my map and I've made my symbology changes, it's a matter of just going over to share. And you can set your share level here, or you can do that later. I'm going to leave it for now, and I'm going to create a web app. And you'll notice that at the top, I have 3 tabs, and the third tab is ArcGIS Dashboards, and that's what I'm after. So ArcGIS Dashboards, it'll prompt me to create a title again, and I'm going to make sure it's a bit different from my map so I can easily distinguish webinar dashboard, and again, saving it in the same folder as my data is found and clicking done. And this is the way that I go around about creating my dashboards. I find that if I am going to be using a dashboard, it usually means that I have some kind of map or data set in the form of survey data or quick capture data ready to go anyway. So I like to go through it this way. And you can see right now we've got the very, very basic skeleton of a dashboard here in front of us. Now, the first thing I always like to do is I like to go up to this cog, the settings cog, and you can set some overall, I guess, themes or layout instructions for your dashboard. For example, I personally like the feel of a dark dashboard, and I'll point out, I was meant to point this out a bit earlier. This is an example of that dark dashboard. We're all probably quite familiar with this COVID-19 dashboard that Johns Hopkins University has put together. And this is ArcGIS Dashboards in action. I mean, what we're going to be doing today is a couple of steps below what they've produced. You know, they're sourcing live data from governments and hospitals from around the world to create this map. You know, that's constantly changing and evolving. So we're not going to be going through that process. That's a little bit further up on the GIS engineering scale. But if we return to the dashboard, I definitely like the feel of the dark theme. And because I'm using that dark theme, I'm going to go with a bit of a fluoro-y, I guess, font, light blue. And I mean, if I wasn't happy with that background, I could change it if I wanted to. I'm going to leave that as is, but you can experiment with some of these things and click done. You can see that that has taken place on my dashboard. The next thing I want to point out is your save button. I always like to save as I go. If you need to save, or if you haven't saved in a while, this icon will be blue, just as a bit of a prompt to save. And because you are working online, I like to always encourage students and teachers to save regularly. Okay, now the first thing, this is I guess the centerpiece of our dashboard today. Do you have to have a map? No, I like to have the map as my centerpiece. And the first thing I want to point out is if we hover over the top left-hand corner of the map, you'll notice that there are additional tools that appear. You can drag the item. At the moment, we can't really drag it because there's nothing else on our dashboard, but I'll show you that in action later. But we want to configure our map a little bit. So I want to keep my pop-ups visible. If you wanted to disable them, you can turn them off. I want to add a scale bar. You can go with line or ruler. I don't have any bookmarks in my map, so I'm going to leave that unchecked, but I do want to add a legend, a layer visibility, so I can change the layer being displayed. It might be valuable to have a base map switcher in there so we can go from topographic to satellite imagery. Search might be a useful function, and as is zoom in and out. And for now, I'm happy with these settings, and it's a matter of really experimenting a lot of the time with what other functions and what other tabs do. But for the map function, I usually sit on settings anyway and set what I want to display here. And when you're done, you can hit done. And you notice immediately I've got my scale bar in the bottom corner, my zoom in and outs, my search, my legend, but also my layer list. So if I wanted to change the data being displayed, I can turn off do you like the beach and turn on why is this your go-to? And you can see that that legend has changed based on the decisions we made earlier. For now, I'm just going to put do you like the beach back on and turn the other one off. And we've got our base map changer as well. And that will load with the options available to your students on the organization. So we've got our map ready to go. Let's start adding some extra pieces. So the next button that's of importance is the add button or the plus button. And here you can see all of the different types of tools or I guess dashboard panels that you can use to and display on your screen. So I'm going to start with a header because that's usually important. And we're going to call this one, let's go with beach goer survey results. And you can add a subtitle, for instance, Year 10 Geography. I personally don't like the way this looks. I'm pretty sure if you go large, it appears below, which makes it a bit more appealing to the eye. For me, I still don't like the use of the subtitle because this is just eating up more space on my dashboard where I can perhaps show more data elsewhere. So I always like to go small, but that's a personal preference thing. You can add logos in. I'm pretty sure they just appear to the left of your title, but the logo has to be quite small and defined because you can't make this header any bigger than large. So I don't find it really worth my time either. And you can experiment with your text color and your background color, but because I've set that earlier when I first opened my dashboard, I don't need to worry about this anymore unless I wanted to make it, individual changes as I went along. Background image, I'm not going to have either. I'm quite happy with how that looks, and I'm going to hit done. You can see that that's appeared at the top. So now it's really a matter of building our dashboard out. Now, the next thing I want to add is rich text. Now, I will point out that you can add a side panel, and I'm not gonna, I'll just I'll put in some text so you can see what it's like. So title fills up from the top to bottom, whereas description fills up from the bottom to top. The reason I don't really like the side panel is if we look at this drag items tool, you'll notice that the drag items isn't an option for the side panel. The side panel is stuck on this side, and I'm not really a huge fan of that. So I always go with rich text instead. So I'm going to delete the side panel, go back up to my plus button and hit rich text instead. And you can see that it's essentially going to be the same thing. I'm going to center my work, go with bold, and maybe go to size 16 font and write something like about this dashboard. I'm going to hit enter a couple of times and then reduce the size. And I've got some text prepared, but hopefully there we go. This dashboard displays qualitative data collected from people going to the beach. These people were from the public and were approached randomly where they were invited to participate in a brief survey. Your students or you, whoever's building the survey, might add additional information about how to navigate the survey. So you can always come back to and edit this and build it out a bit more. But for now, let's go with a really brief about this dashboard and hit done. And we can see that that panel is there for us. I'm not satisfied with the size of this panel. So the first thing I'm going to do is between the two panels, if you click and drag, you can resize those panels. And I really don't want this wasting too much space. So we'll start with it here, and we can always make adjustments later as we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 99 exclamation mark indicator. And what is that? That can be a bit of a count, if you will. So maybe how many people have completed your survey. So I don't want to take layers from the questions in my map. I'm actually going to browse for other layers, and I want to take the dashboard survey instead. And we can see that this number here is the number of people that have completed the survey so far. So if I look under data, and we can see there's a couple of tabs over the side, I want to stick with count. I could, depending on what I'm showing, maybe change that to average. So we might repeat this step in a second and look at the third question in the survey, which was how many times on average do you visit the beach. We'll repeat that in a second so you can see them both in action, but I need to choose count. And because I'm just interested in how many people have completed my survey, I want to stick with object ID. So it just recognizes it's essentially a count of how many people have created my survey. So we'll stick with that. And we'll go to indicator. And we're just going to add some text. So number of people surveyed. If I wanted to, I could add some bottom and middle text. I'm going to leave the middle text as the value because that's what we're most interested in. We could add maybe a title if we went on a particular day and surveyed people on a particular day. But I'm going to leave the bottom text blank for now. And under general, I'm just going to change this name to count number of people surveyed. And I'll explain why I always name my panels. So I'm essentially naming what this panel is called, and that'll be important later when I go to make my dashboard a little bit dynamic to the touch. Alrighty, I'm going to hit done. And again, it's a matter of dragging. So each time you're going to have to drag your survey, but this time when I drag it, I want to hover over my text that I created earlier, and I actually want to dock it as a row below. And you can see that my dashboard, begins to take a bit of shape. And we'll just repeat that step with the counter again to show you. So now that I've added my survey data in, you can see that it appears under other layers. This time we're going to actually change it to average. And when I go with, you can see that it's quite smart anyway. It knows the question we're after. On average, how many visits to the beach do you have it per year? Indicator, I'm going to make sure I add some clarifying text around this. How many times do you visit the beach per year? And it might be worth putting this time in the bottom on average or something like that. Again, I like to name my panels count average visits to beach per year. And I can make those additional changes if I want to. There's no point putting a title in because I've used top text and bottom text, so that serves the same purpose as well. I'm going to hit done, and I'm going to drag it in and keep it on this row. So you can see, depending on how much information you have, you can actually have quite a few panels per row, and you can resize them as you want. So like, there's really no reason, if I needed lots of text at the top, there's really no reason I couldn't reduce these to quite small and have a lot of text there available without being compromised by size. So it's just a matter of playing with it a little bit. Alrighty, the next thing we're going to add is a pie chart. And this time we're going to go with, for the pie chart, we're going to go with how would you rate the cleanliness of the beach? And from here, we're going to make sure in data that we've got grouped values, and we need to select our category field again. So we need to find that cleanliness question. How would you rate the general cleanliness on the beach? I'm happy with it being a count. If you wanted averages or minimums, etc., you can experiment with that. But again, I just want it to be a simple count. I'm going to go to my chart. And this is where we can play with how the pie chart looks like. So I could change the starting angle if I wanted to. I like to stick with 90. I could have a radius and inner radius on my pie chart if I wanted to as well. And I really like this feature, hover text. So as a user hovers over this pie chart on my dashboard, they can actually see the results pop up for the different categories there. So I'm going to leave that enabled. I'm going to keep my labels on, and you can see that they've got a bit of a percentage going there. But if I didn't want percentage, I could change that to value as well. So I've got six survey results as clean, 1 survey result is very clean. It's completely up to you. We'll stick with percentage for now, and I'm going to go and reduce, or maybe not that far, but reduce the separation, the space between the little line that comes out of the chart on and through to clean. So I'm just going to have that as 2. The larger that number is, the larger the line away from the text, but I want to save some space there. And I might actually put a legend in as well. So I've had percentage around the sides. It might be good to have value as my legend here. And I can choose to place that either on the bottom or the side. I personally like the bottom because when I click the side, the pie chart gets really small. So I always stick with bottom there. Now, the important thing here is once you've made those changes, we need to go to slices and we need to match those colors that were in our initial map if we've spent some time symbolizing those layers. So hopefully the map's still open here for us. Otherwise, I'm going to have to quickly pull it up. Content. So it might be useful having the map open anyway as you go. I'm just going to open this map so we're not going to spend too much or get too pedantic about it today in matching the colors, but I'll just show you that process in action. So we've got content. We're currently worrying about cleanliness on the beach, and we've got red through to blue. So what I want to do is, I know that my very clean is that dark blue color, and I know that clean is my light blue color. Now you'll see that the others haven't been populated yet. That's because no one in my survey has yet selected unclean or very unclean or neutral as an option. I want to make sure that when those options are selected, that the proper color shows up. So if I know exactly how my wording appears on my survey question, I can actually add these categories in now and be a bit preemptive. Neutral, and the other one was unclean. And so I can then make sure that those changes are displayed on my map too. So there's that one. And you can, again, make some changes to things like the outlines of the colors. Again, I'm not going to touch that. I'm quite happy with how it looks. I'm going to head to general, and I'm going to just rename this pie chart cleanliness, of beach. And this time it's worth putting a title in so that everyone knows exactly what they're looking at when engaging with my dashboard. General cleanliness of beach. And we're happy with everything else for now. Again, it's just a matter of playing around with things if you want to play around with things, but I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to drag away. Oh, whoops, missed the button. Drag. And I'm going to drag it to the right-hand side of my map this time. And you can see I wouldn't spend too much time resizing these as you go until you've got all the panels in. Just do some rough resizing, because every time you add a panel in, it's just going to change things up a bit anyway. All right, we'll add a couple more. We'll add a bar chart and a list, and then we will show you how to make it a bit more dynamic. So if we look at serial chart here, we want to choose from, we might go with one of these. Why is this your go-to beach? We'll see if this works. So data options, categories from, grouped values, category field, and we want to choose why is this your go-to beach. And we can see that we've got our options having appeared back up for us. And we're going to head down to category axis. So we're going to name this one reason for going to this beach. You can set your sizes, you can set scroll bar. I always like to, under labels, if space is precious, which on a dashboard it is, where it says placement, I like to change it to staggered, because then I guess our headings get a bit smaller and we can make this panel a lot smaller too. So we'll stick with that. If I wanted to make changes to the axes itself, so the lines on the graph and in and around the graph, I can make those changes as well. With regards to opacity, you can see that line gets brighter down the bottom, thickness, color, etc. For value axes, we're going to go with number of responses. I'm going to leave all these values as is, and I'm going to make sure that integers only is checked. Now that's not an issue for our chart at the moment, but sometimes depending on the data you're working with, these numbers might be 1.1, 1.3, 1.4, so on and so forth, and I really don't like that. I like to be nice and neat with my chart, so again, it depends on the data you're working with, but for this case, integers only works really well. I'll turn that opacity up nice and strong again, and I'm going to leave the other defaults as is. Guides I leave, but series, we want to actually make these a little bit more of a color-coded chart. So under bar colors, we're going to click by category again, and you can see that my options appear here. So if I was working in conjunction with my map here, I would swap to legend, and we're not going to get really that pedantic here again, but I can choose the colors as is necessary to match my map and to match the symbology on my map. And you can notice that I'm actually one short here. So again, the same principle would be that I add the one in that I'm missing, which is away from more crowded beaches. And it's really important that you get that word for word, away from more crowded beaches. And the reason that's important to get it word for word is that it's pulling data from our survey. So it needs to match the survey in order to get that data right. And you'll notice that it won't actually appear on this chart until someone has filled in the survey with that as their response. Going to general, just rename this again, chart, go to beach, and for title, again, why is this your go-to beach? And I'm going to hit done. And you'll notice that there's an actions button that we have, a tab that we haven't gone to yet. We will get to it in just a second. But we can see that my dashboard's really starting to take shape. There is one more, and the reason I'm going through so many is just to show you the different kinds of functions that are available to you here. I'm going to add a list in. I'm going to go to the other layers again, the survey layers. And I'm happy with all of this. If you wanted more than 25, so if I had 40 or 50 survey responses, if I wanted all 50 to show up, I can modify that number. As I've only got 7, 25 will do anyway. And I'm going to head to list. And I need to tell this list what data I want it to show. So I'm actually going to get rid of object ID. And in here, it's always the little bracket symbol. I need to find the information I'm after. So the question that makes most sense from my survey to display as a list would be the last question: what actions could the council take to improve the beach? So I'm going to click on that. I can change the size of the font if I wanted to. It might actually be good to enter down on this and put a title in council. Oh, actually, now that I'm seeing that, I might leave it without a title. I'm sure that might actually appear under general anyway, like we've done previously. So we'll get rid of that. And we don't want it centered. And I like to get rid of these red dots. I really don't like them. So under line item icon, I'm going to hit none. And I've got a really simple list here. And if we go to general, list, council actions, and here, this is probably the better place to put our title in council actions to improve the beach. And I might make that a bit bigger so it stands out from the font below it. And again, I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to drag this down. This time I'm going to drag it down below my map, but I don't want it to feature that heavily. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller. And again, this is scrollable too as well. So you got to think about how you want to display your data. You know, like scrolling isn't always the best, but lots of dashboards use them. You know, we scroll by country here as well. So you just need to think about how you want your dashboard to look at the end of the day. But we'll leave it there for now. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make it a little bit more dynamic to the touch. So I want it to respond to my audience's actions. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hover back over my pie chart, go to configure, and we're going to visit the actions tab this time. And we need to click on add action, filter. And then once that pops up, we need to hit add target. And so you can see that the map is the target. How would you rate the cleanliness of the beach is the question that I want to be dynamic to the touch. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to leave that unchecked and I'm going to hit done. I'm just going to show you this in action. So let's just focus. Let's just make sure that the right layer is being displayed on my map. How would you rate the cleanliness of the beach? So you can see those colors are there. But if I, as an audience member, as a user engaging with this dashboard, clicks on clean, you can see that only the data results on my map that correspond with clean show up. If I'm only interested in seeing beaches that are of a very clean standard, then I hit that and it pops up and I guess filters out the other responses. If I want to see them all again, I just click outside the pie chart and they all pop up again. So this is what I guess where the dashboard takes it to a new level. And you can start building some actions in around. So if we do the same thing, we'll change the layer to the go-to this time. And we'll do the same with our actions here. So configure on the chart, actions, add action, filter. I'm going to add target and it's why is this your go-to beach? I'm going to hit done. And we've got to remember that we didn't set the colors correctly this time. So this is where there's going to be a bit of a disconnect, but closest beach from home and it shows those results. I'm assuming that there are two quite close together here in either Brisbane or back down towards Sydney. But you can see that as I click through them, I'll go back out again. I can see that I think this is Esperance. And if I click on that, I should be able to confirm it. Oh, I won't be able to confirm it because that's my map question. But if I zoomed in, I'm sure that Esperance would pop up there. But I can engage with different types of reasoning there too. So I'll click back out of that. The last one we will do is we might actually add a filter for lists. So we'll make this a bit bigger for now. But if I configure and hit actions, I'm going to add action. You can see we've got some more options available to us. I just like filter because it helps me filter the information that I need to see quickly on a map or on a dashboard. But I'm going to add target here. You can see we've got more options. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to make sure that, and this is why I named everything earlier, so I can clearly see what each option is. So I'll link it to the chart, go to the bar chart that we just created earlier, and I need to make sure that I enter my source fields and target fields. So why is this beach your go-to? Is the question I'm answered in there. Interested in, sorry, there. The next one I'm going to do is we might actually add average visits to the beach per year too. You can see I don't need to do anything with that. And the last one, I might actually add the pie chart as well. Cleanliness, and I just need to set that again. Cleanliness, there we go. And I can set a range of filters there. I haven't really touched the map this time. I've just touched the charts, the counts and the pie chart. I'm going to hit done there. And you'll see now that if I wanted to see, okay, who talked about more flagged areas to swim between, I can click on that and I can see some of their other responses. So I've linked that to this. So this person visits this beach because the services are close, there are services close by. They've rated the beach as clean and they visit the beach 4 times on average a year. If I wanted to, I could also go the extra step and add some more filters in so that that appears on the map too. So I could identify exactly what one of these dots that person or that survey participant was. You can see that this is where it really becomes powerful. And if we look at something like the COVID-19 dashboard, you know, they've got all kinds of tools that we can engage with, you know, total vaccine doses over time. If I click on India, it relocates the map, and this is the flash option. So we just did filter. If I show you again really quickly, configure, actions, there was a flash option there for us. So that's the flash option available to us, France, and it just flashes for us on the map to show us where exactly it is. And this is a list in action. Now you'll notice that this particular dashboard has tabs on it too. So we have multiple maps showing different things. And I guess I want to point this out now because it might be that you, instead of going with one map with 3 layers on it, you actually can create three maps with 1 layer on it each, and then you can actually add the maps in. So we'll just add a random map in. So we'll add this flow line map in, and I could set all those settings again and hit done. And I can actually drag that item, and if you sit it on the center box, you stack the items, and you can see that they're now stacked. So I can actually display different maps as tabs if I wanted to, and build out my filters that way too. When you get to doing that, you know, you're getting quite complex as well, and you got to make sure, you got to really double check all of your filter settings and whatnot to make sure you haven't missed anything. But you can rename these as well. So this is beach goers, and this random one that we just added is a flow line migration map. But you can see there that we've got the ability to create those tabs as well. And it doesn't have to necessarily be with maps. We're looking at COVID again. We can see that we can do it with lists as well. These accounts that we've added, we can see that we've got our header there, and what appears to be a range of charts that they've built out. And this is a little bit, I'm going to be honest, this is a little bit beyond me, these charts. I'd have to do a little bit more professional development, but we can see that this is quite a comprehensive dashboard. Now, once you're done, you can hit save. I'll just show you how to share this with people as well. Because normally you can share things via the map that you've created from that screen, but with a dashboard, you have to go back to content. You got to find that dashboard in your content, so it'll appear in this survey folder for me, and we can see that there it is. And where it says personal, I can change that to organization or everyone. I'm pretty sure it'll give me a warning, or it won't this time, because usually it'll give me a warning if my survey is still open. But I can change that to everyone or just my organization if I only want certain people to view it. And once I've done that, a little URL appears at the bottom, and I just copy that URL, stick it in an email or on a PowerPoint or however I want to distribute it, and then others can view my dashboard too. But yeah, that's probably about it in terms of building out your dashboard. I'll return to this page now and just see if there are any questions. We have about 15 minutes left, and I appreciate everyone's busy, so if you do have to run, feel free to run. But otherwise, I'm more than happy to answer some questions or hopefully display a couple more things if anyone had them. And whilst people are doing that, I will say that I've created a video tutorial on this, like 15-20 minutes video tutorial, as well as a step-by-step guide, and that will go up on our school's website in the next couple of weeks. The video tutorial does take a little bit of time to edit and put together as well, so we're just waiting on that at the moment. Otherwise, I'm just waiting for some questions. If there aren't any in the next half a minute or minute, we might just call it there and have a great afternoon. I do have one question come through. Is dashboard a way of adding an interactive graph of survey 123 result into a story map? Debbie, you might just need to ask that question again, because I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're after. Is dashboard a way of adding an interactive graph to a survey into a story map? Look, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer what you're actually after, but if I took this URL here and I'm just going to open a story map up, probably open the one up that I was working on last week, or the last couple of weeks, landscapes and landforms. And this survey has nothing to do necessarily with what this story map's about. I have to edit the story, but can I embed this dashboard into a story map? If that's what you're kind of getting at, then the answer is yes. So I'll just go to the bottom of my story map at the moment, and I'm going to add, I'm going to hit embed, and I can add that URL in. And it might just take a little bit of time to be put into my story map, hopefully not too long. So we can see it's here. It's a bit small at the moment, so let's make it larger on my screen. And I'm going to click to interact, and you can see that it's loading it up, but I haven't shared it at the appropriate level. I think I showed you how to share it to everyone, but I didn't actually click everyone. But it's going to prompt me because I haven't to sign into ArcGIS Online. If it's shared with everyone, then it's not going to have that prompt, and it will show all the data around the dashboard, and then your students can engage with that. Hopefully that's what you were after. Yes, that's what I mean. That way, the example of the interactive pie chart works in the story. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I could, I could try and log in really quickly. Or maybe I should just go back and, well, maybe it's just because it's actually because it's not published probably. But yes, I could click on the pie chart and it would be that interactive kind of theme with the map there too. Next question was, I didn't get how you created the survey. Is this created on dashboards too? Good question. No, you didn't miss this at the start. I did some prep work for this particular webinar and created the survey ahead of time. So if you were after how to create the survey, you can actually go to this little 9-digit icon. And just like I showed you how to get to dashboards, you can actually, if you scroll down, get to survey 123, which is what I used to build the survey. And if you need some help around creating your own survey, that's when I would encourage you to visit that school's website that I've been sharing throughout. And we've got some really great quick video tutorials on how to create and design those surveys as well. And I'll just share that website up there for you again. Are there any other questions today? Great, there doesn't seem to be any other questions today. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your very busy schedules. And again, feel free to reach out to me at education@esriaustralia.com.au if you did have any further questions. Thanks guys, and have a wonderful afternoon.